Murphy, Peter LeBroy, Alex Blewett and Mike Doyle.
Thank you.
And sorry, call me Councillor Sean Tilbury.
And any declarations of registered and non-registered disposal of pecuniary interests and non-registrable interests? None. Thank you. So no dispensations. No. Thank you. Okay, so number 4, the minutes of full council. To receive, confirm and sign the minutes of the council meeting held on the 1st of December. I propose that we receive, confirm and sign those. Yeah. All those in favour?
Against them.
It's definitely the bacon. Yeah, all those against? And abstain as well. Thank you, Jimmy. Okay, and the minutes of committees. To receive and note the minutes of the committee meetings listed below. We've got first of all the planning committee on the 7th and 21st of December.
I propose we do that.
Yeah, I'll second that. All those in favour, please? The Oversight Committee on the 15th of December.
Propose we accept those.
All those in favour? Okay, and all those against? And abstain. Thank you. And then the Staffing Committee on the 6th of December as well. I propose that we receive and note those.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favour? Against and abstain. Oh, I was counting you there.
Well, I'm not allowed to vote, I'm afraid.
Oh my goodness, it's going to be all night. Sorry. Okay, so moving on to the recommendations. To consider and agree. So first of all, we've got to agree the process of dealing with leases and licences. Resolved that with the addition of the above changes, that the proposal be recommended to full council.
Well, the paper has been circulated as from the committee.
Yes. So if no one's got any questions or things to say, then I would propose that we accept those above changes and agree the process as detailed in the document. Okay. All those in favour, please. Okay. And all those against? And any abstain? Thank you. Okay, and the second part of that is to discuss a draft flag protocol and make recommendation to full council on future policy. And it was resolved that with the alterations specified, that the flag protocol be recommended to full council for adoption. And I just want to make it very clear, clarify. In the document itself, it talks about there being no additional flag flown from Shoulder Hill on certain dates, and I just want to clarify those dates so we're all clear. So in June, D-Day anniversary, the Union flag will be flown to mark the anniversary of D-Day on the 6th of June. It will be the only flag flown from Shoulder Hill flagpole that day. Armed Forces Day, the Armed Forces Day flag will be flown from the Shoulder Hill flagpole on Armed Forces Day and the following Sunday. It will be the only flag flown from the Shoulder Hill flagpole on those 2 days. And just to say on that subject as well, in June, during Pride Month and on Pride weekends, the Town Council will fly appropriate flags from its flagpoles. So just to clarify that part of it. So was there any? Yes?
Okay, it says to discuss. Can I raise a point?
Yeah.
We're wasting quite a bit of time on the flag scenario. I personally think the Shoulder Hill should be always the Union Jack, and the other flagpoles should raise whatever flag, if there's an event on that links to that flag.
Yeah.
So, like the lifeboat, always used to put the flags up on lifeboat day and whatever have you without permission. You know, they haven't been doing it lately because there hasn't been life up there as such,
No.
not really. But, you know, and if Pride want to put a flag up and they're putting on an event, fine.
Mm.
But, you know, I don't think, apart from the flags belonging to the states and countries that we're attached to, that another flag should be up there for a month. That's my personal view.
Just one from me, Amanda. The
Yes.
armed forces, the veterans would not want an Armed Forces Day flag flying above Show Hill on those days.
Right, okay.
Just the Union Jack.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's plenty of other places we can fly that, outside the Legion or wherever.
Mm.
We don't need to put one on now.
Okay, we'll make a note of that.
I say the Union Jack because it's linked to the war memorial that's next to the you know,
Mm.
that's why I think that one should be there at all times.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to say?
Say a few words?
Yeah.
I'd love to, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I get on camera this time? I missed me 5 minutes of fame last time.
You go straight through the door, sir.
You used to say that to me at school as well.
Keep quiet, son.
I never listened though, did I?
Can't say.
Right, thanks for allowing me to speak. It's only going to keep you 5 minutes, I know you're busy. The veterans community would like to thank Bude-Stratton Town Council for their efforts so far to agree a policy with regards to displaying the flags in Bude. We also recognise the desire for other groups to request to fly their flags of their choice, subject to protocols. I have taken time to read your draft proposals and have the following comments. The flagpole located on Shoulder Hill is located very close to Bude War Memorial. It is therefore seen by the majority of veterans and serving members of the armed forces as a significant place to show respect to those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, not only on Remembrance Day, but every day throughout the year. Johnny Mercer MP was appointed Minister for Veterans Affairs at the Cabinet Office on the 7th of July 22. The government is committed to celebrating our veterans and their contribution to society and the economy. They want veterans to know that their service is valued by the nation and that they will tackle damaging misconceptions and stereotypes. Since January 22, the government has continued to work closely with key stakeholders and has introduced a new Armed Forces Covenant duty, the Armed Forces Act, in 2021. The duty places a legal obligation on organisations such as Bude-Stratton Town Council to pay due regard to the principles of the Covenant. This means that discussions concerning the development and delivery of certain services need to be made with conscious consideration of the needs of the armed forces community. The Armed Forces Covenant is about fairness, recognising uniqueness of service, removing disadvantages caused by service, and enabling special provision for those who have given the most. Flags are a very British way of expressing joy and pride. They are emotive symbols which can boost local and national identities, strengthen community cohesion, and mark civic pride. The government has said it wants to see more flags flown, particularly the Union flag, the flag of the United Kingdom. It is a symbol of national unity and pride. The government has issued guidance encouraging the flying of the Union flag on all UK government buildings throughout the year, alongside other national and local flags. They are keen for local authorities and other local organisations to follow suit. As you will be aware, there are a list of flags that do not require consent and are detailed in government guidance. Also, flags which do not require consent, provided they comply with certain restrictions, are also detailed. All other flags require planning consent. Two flags can also be flown from the same flagpole without the need for consent if certain conditions are met. If the Union flag is flown, it must be in a superior position, showing a symbol of national unity and pride. Therefore, by definition, If the Union flag is flown with another flag, it must be flown in a superior position. Any flag flown under it is inferior. I do not think Bude-Stratton Town Council interests to therefore discriminate against any other country, association or organisation by stating they are inferior. The government has specified certain dates for a Union flag to be flown and has acknowledged this other instances that do and may occur in the draft proposal. For example, this year may be considerate for the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Atlantic, where 6,000 Royal Navy died and approximately 4,000 others fighting for this country. In conclusion, the veterans community welcomes the work to date. We would ask Bude-Stratton Town Council to consider further before making a decision. We request that special consideration be given to Shoulder Hill flagpole due to the proximity of the War Memorial. And Bude-Stratton Town Council agrees to only fly Category A flags, those who have clear consent all year round, and especially the Union flag on significant dates as set by government and those agreed locally with various veterans associations. This will clearly show a sign of respect to those who have fallen, but also allow the veterans and those currently serving to feel valued. In doing so, Bude-Stratton Town Council will show fairness, recognising the uniqueness of service, removing disadvantage those who have suffered from their service, and enabled special provision for those who have given the most all the year round. This also leaves the remaining 3 flagpoles in the town as per Bude-Stratton Town Council policy, which will boost local and national identity, strengthen the community and make civic pride. That's where I'm going to finish there, but anybody that's unclear of the flags in Category A, that's a Union Jack, the English flag, George, and the Cornish flag. They, and any other flags from any nationalities. So we just want Category A flags flown from that pole. There's just one other thing I'd like to mention before. I've had quite a few phone calls. I put a post up about this meeting on Facebook a few days ago and got quite a bit of abuse for what I'm not quite sure. But there are 2 people in I've never met in Mr. Bristow and Mr. Price have called me homophobic, racist, and what loads of phobic, 2 or 3, I don't even know what they mean. So I'd like to ask you as members of council, do you condemn comments like that to me? You do?
Condemn what?
Condemn that people are calling me.
Well, if you go online, you're going to get slagged off.
Totally agree, Paul, totally agree.
But we don't know what you actually stated online.
You
so-
can go online and see that.
Yeah, but the question was asked now in the present, wasn't it? So
Yeah,
we
well,
can't, we
okay.
can't say whether it was.
Any abuse we condemn.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Cool. That's all I want to. I was just a bit. I've had a few phone calls from people saying that was, you know, people that have known me.
Yeah.
They know I'm no saint, but all those
I
things.
didn't phone you, did I? No.
No. So I just like to bring that up because that upset a lot of people.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah, especially my family
Yeah,
members.
quite right.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Okay. Okay, do anyone have any questions?
So can we just clarify that
Yeah.
our flag flying protocol doesn't say that? It doesn't say it's only going to be category A flags. It says that we're going to be able to fly other flags.
Yes.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's what we need to consider whether we want that amendment or not.
We're only talking about the shoulder hill. The other 3 flagpoles.
I'm just going to read.
We can't move the war memorial. It is where it is.
Sure, yeah. I'm just going to read, for those that might not have seen the papers, just the beginning, the idea behind this document. So the flying of flags can bring the community together, strengthen identities and remind us of our shared history and sacrifices. It also has the potential to be divisive. As an organisation representing the whole community, Bude-Stratton Town Council has a duty to treat requests for flags to be flown from its flagpoles with fairness and equity. At the same time, it must also abide by the rules set down by central government for the flying of flags. Now, Now, I know a lot of research from our point of view has gone into what's right, what's wrong, what we can do, what we can't do, because that's our job, isn't it, to get that bit right. So I personally feel really happy with the policy. I think that, Shoulder Hill, although it does have the War Memorial there, after speaking with RBL's, what are they called, diversity department, they were very happy. So the organisation that Dave is representing were themselves very happy with the idea of the pride flag appearing alongside the Union Jack on a War Memorial. And of course we've written into this that on certain days only one will fly, because that was what was requested last year, and obviously that was...
Isn't it important to do what the people of Bude-Stratton would want, the people that you're supposed to be representing, i.e. how many names would I need to get on a petition for you to listen?
I think...
500, 1,000? Give me a figure. I'll crack it.
I think I'm looking at the national picture, the picture
Your
painted...
Bude-Stratton Town Council.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a flagpole.
I've spoken to you as a club. I come along twice now
Yeah.
to meetings with you, and I don't know how many people were there, 20, 25,
Yeah.
something like that. And you obviously gave me your feelings. Now, of course, we take that on board, but we can't base a decision on 2025.
We're not. I'm here representing the
We're
Rural
looking
Rangers
at the national
Association,
view.
Bude Navy Association.
Just hold on a second,
Yeah.
sorry. We're looking at the view given by your organisation as well, which surely counts a huge amount.
What about the people of Bude-Stratton?
Well, unless I go out and ask everybody.
I thought
we're
that,
here.
I thought that was your job.
Our
wasn't it,
job,
to
well,
ask people?
actually, our job as councillors is to represent the community, yes, but our job is to vote in the way that we feel we are representing the views of the community best. That's our job, that's why we're elected.
Okay, I'll take you back to the question I asked. How many signatures do I need on a petition for you to reconsider? By saying no, you're saying that you don't really care what Bude-Stratton thinks.
No, that's not what I've said.
Well, give me a figure then.
So, I'm going to come back to the table, because the point of the meeting is the councillors, this document's been drawn up, and does anyone else have anything they'd like to say?
Yeah.
Sean?
I just want to echo your thoughts and Philippa's thoughts about the document that we're actually looking at. So we spent a lot of time in oversight going through all of the kind of legals and all of the different sensitivities with kind of communities and trying to get the best document that represents everyone in an equitable way, while still abiding by kind of national standards and the law.
Yeah.
I feel really strongly that this document is as tight as we can get it, and thank you to Ian for bringing that out and everyone else that was involved in the discussions. I completely sympathise with your concerns about the proximity, the Shoulder Hill flag. I personally believe that to kind of go backwards from where we were last year would be a retrograde step, so I think this actually sets our stall as where we are now, rather than kind of making it more contentious. This actually delivers the equity that we all want, and we want that cohesion. We understand that groups aren't necessarily going to get on, and that is the nature of this whole process, but I really do believe quite strongly that this document is as good as we can get it to represent everyone. So when you say how many signatures, it's not really about that per se, because we're trying our best to actually please everyone.
Well, you're
as
not
many
pleasing
people
everybody.
as
You're
we
not
can
pleasing.
in
I've had
this
hundreds of phone
instance.
calls, and I'm convinced that I could get 1,000 signatures. That's more votes than got you in as mayor.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can I get a copy of this policy that you've adopted?
Well, that's what we're trying to
Okay.
set
And
up.
then the other thing is, do I take it that this policy will allow you, as Bude-Stratton Town Council, to decide what flags? Well, I don't represent anybody. I'm just wondering who can come to you and then ask to have their flag displayed.
Yeah. Okay.
Policies on the website, so with the agenda pack now.
Okay, thank you.
So that is the document under discussion. It was discussed at oversight committee and has been recommended to council, and obviously council may choose to either accept it or amend it or reject it this evening. That's the process. And clearly the town council, these are the 4 flags on flag poles on town council land, so it's for the council to decide what it wants to do with those flag poles. Obviously it's not all flags in the town.
Yes, so, you know, within the national rules, let's say,
Yes, exactly.
you will be deciding what flags can go, that's the intention, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Paul.
Madam Chair, can I offer an amendment to the proposal, and that is that on Shoulder Hill it is always the Union Jack to represent, you know, and leave that, and then all the other flagpoles can.
I'll make a note of that for a minute, and I'll just take a
I'll
couple
make a
more comments
proposal
if that's
in a
all
minute.
right, and we'll see where else we go. Yes, Kevin and then Kelly, please.
I've had a lot of soul searching about this one because I'm a little bit like the old farmer, sort of giving directions. I personally wouldn't start from here, but we are starting from here, and we gave permission for the pride flag to fly, and it seems to me a very heavy thing to withdraw that permission again, and a very heavy thing to say that we were wrong, or that, you know, before I joined the council was wrong to allow that pride flag to be flown.
Excuse me, Graham, it's not about
Sorry,
the pride flag, it's about any other flag.
Okay.
Realistically, nobody's got a problem with the Union flag. I personally don't like the idea of the Union flag being flown from Shoulder Hill all year round. I think the community is a Cornish community. The names on that war memorial are almost all Cornish names, and I don't think anybody has any objection to the Cornish flag being flown as a symbol of the identity of the town as a Cornish town. And then also the Union flag to be flown for the specific days mentioned, which emphasise the sacrifice of the military. So we don't have a problem with the Union flag. We don't have a problem with the Cornish flag. We probably don't have a problem with the English flag on St George's Day or particular days, or the Welsh flag or the Scottish flag. So those flags aren't the issue. The elephant in the room is the pride flag. Let's be honest about that. And it's a question of whether the pride flag should be flown from that particular flagpole during Pride Month or whether it shouldn't. And I have done some soul searching on this because, as I said, I would rather not have this kind of culture wars going on in our town. I'd rather it didn't happen, but we're here now. And I think, personally, that the document that we have before us to decide upon tonight is a reasonable compromise. It says that on particular days which have particular significance, that the pride flag won't be there. Just the Union flag will be there to represent the military. The rest of the time, the Cornish flag will be there to represent the fact that we are a Cornish community. I don't think anyone has any objections to that. And then there are certain occasions, such as if England or possibly Wales or Scotland made a particular sporting final, then representations could be made to fly the flag to show the community support for those teams or individuals, which I think is a good idea. You know, Andy Murray probably is never going to make Wimbledon final again, but if he were to, and I don't think anybody would have any objection to the Scottish flag flying to show community support for him. So, overall, I think this is as good a compromise as we're going to get. And if we're being asked to go further and effectively say, well, you know, on that particular flagpole there will not be the pride flag, in all conscience, and I'm not by any means woke or anything of that nature, I won't go, and I don't want this council to go to Bude Pride and say, you can't fly your flag, sorry.
Thank you, Kevin. Kelly?
To be honest, I think Kevin's just said pretty much everything I wanted to say, probably more eloquently than I could have done. Bude, it would be lovely, and we have put out a statement saying that we want Bude to be an inclusive place, and Shoulder Hill is close to the War Memorial, but it is also one of the first things people see when they enter Bude is that flagpole, and I think it would be, I think it would be an absolute shame if we couldn't show our pride in our inclusivity on that flagpole. And I did at the beginning, last year I had huge misgivings about saying that we couldn't fly that on certain dates, and I do understand that it's important to you guys, and I feel the compromise that has been made, although I struggled with it. I feel okay about it, I feel good about it, but to make that go further and say only category A flags on that flagpole, I think is for me too far.
Can I just reiterate, it's nothing against Pride, it's having another flag there. Whatever it is, whether it's a lifeboat, whether it's Armed Forces Day, we believe there should be no flag below the national flag or the Cornish flag. And also, when they all get tangled up this year, whose job is it to untangle them? Because I've done it quite a few times last year.
We may have solved that by having equal weight flags. I think there was an issue before that.
Different materials cause the issue.
I didn't mean that in a bad way. I'm quite happy to go up and do it if it happens. Because it's nothing. If two flags are up there, two flags are up there. There's nothing worse than two flags being tangled.
Okay. Sorry, just going to ask you a question. So as far as that,
If anyone has an amendment to table, it should be tabled and seconded, and then it can be voted upon.
Yeah.
I think what you said at the beginning, we're treating that same way as well.
Yes,
You
the
just tidy that.
amendment with
Yes.
the clarification with the dates. Okay.
In effect, the policy document is the proposal. So, I think if there's any amendments to be tabled.
Okay. So yes,
Can I make a request just for some further communication?
yes.
Is that all right?
Of course.
Can I ask what is it that underlies the request for category A flags only?
Because we believe that is paying the ultimate respect for the people that died, who are laying below that flagpole.
So it represents
It represents the flag that they died for.
right.
And of course the Union Jack is inclusive, it represents everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Paul.
The amendment I would like to put to the table
Propose, yes.
is that on the Shoulder Hill, only category A flags fly. I'll withdraw my Union Jack only to category A flags. I don't know whether anyone would like to second that. The young lady on my right is
Okay. All those in favour, please.
category A flags only.
And all those against.
Demand a recount.
So we
And
sneaked in there.
abstentions, was that everybody? And one abstention. Thank you. Two, sorry. Okay, and I propose the amendment regarding the dates as well, although did we
Right.
need to change that one then perhaps?
Yes.
Bearing in mind what you said about the Armed Forces Day,
Armed Forces Day, you would like the Union flag.
rather than the Armed
Yeah.
Forces Day. So, okay, so it would be the D-Day anniversary, 6th of June, would be the only flag to fly, the Union flag. And then Armed Forces Day would be only the Union flag again, and the following Sunday.
It's unlikely to be taken down Saturday.
Yes.
What was I thinking?
Yeah,
And
during Pride Month and on Pride Weekend, the Town Council will fly the appropriate flags from its flagpoles for Pride. Yep, so propose those amendments to the protocol that have been drafted.
Second those amendments.
Okay, all those in favour?
myself for the amendments.
And that's, yes, so I've sort of done it in the wrong order a bit.
No, that's
No, that's
Is
what I
okay,
thought.
is it? I was going to say, we've got to actually go on the process,
Yes.
save
Yes.
the whole document. I feel like I should have
No,
done it first.
you're quite, no, done it the right way.
Oh, okay.
Minutes first.
Okay, so I propose that we adopt the flag protocol document as
As amended.
yes. Thank you. That's good. Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, one. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dave, for speaking as well.
I've just said Keith and Tracy exactly what I've said, so
Thank you.
we'll get them.
Okay, thank you everybody. Correspondence received, Keith.
There's nothing specific to note.
It's me. Okay, sorry, hope you're all sitting comfortably. So first of all, congratulations and a little round of applause, I think, are in order for Councillor Martin Dorey.
Hey.
Thank you.
So this is going to be my last full council meeting for a while as mayor. I need to take some time out basically for my health from now before the baby arrives, which is only a matter of weeks now. It's been a really challenging couple of years with huge rewards and amazing experiences along the way. I've learnt so much, and I must thank everyone for their kindness and Keith for his patience especially in that first term where I was getting used to not only the public speaking aspect, which is still not something I enjoy, but also the rules and the expectations of my role. So things like councillors wearing a suit haven't been important to me, although I do love your bow ties. I haven't asked people to stand when they speak as long as the room can hear you, because to me these things can act as barriers, preventing some people from actually speaking. And those things I don't feel are a representation of how well a person is serving our community. Every one of us sat here is here because they want to make things better for our area, for our residents and for our families. So many good things have happened in the last 2 years, and I feel so privileged to have been even a tiny part of it. So on that note, I'm very happy to be able to report that we've now finally had the permissions in place with Cornwall Council, allowing us to move on with the Compass Point project. Hooray! We'll be going out to tender imminently, and we've already got some interested parties, so great news, really good news. I'd also like to acknowledge the recent huge success for Bude Climate Partnership in being awarded £2 million from the National Lottery Climate Action Fund for community climate change projects in our area. I'm sure you can appreciate that this is the result of a huge amount of time and effort spent by multiple people and organisations locally, with Project Director Rob Ulig driving this to fruition. And I'm so pleased that this council enabled the actual funding bid to happen, and I hope that we may help other local organisations in a similar way in the future. Moving on a more sort of practical level, there are a few things which I've been involved in which I feel are important to hand over to some of you in my impending absence. I don't need hands up tonight or anything like that, but if there's something that you think you might be interested in taking on, if you could email me or Keith, it would be amazing. I'm just going to go through a couple of them. So my role within the town team, Katie's our other representative, and I feel it's ever more important that we take up the 2 positions that we're afforded on that. There'll be lots going on soon with the grant from Cornwall Council, hopefully on its way. And I believe our input into the public consultation is vital. So I'm just in the process again of liaising with key people on the preservation of the Stratton monument issue, which I spoke about in the council meeting ages ago. And so if any of the Stratton councillors wanted to give me an email, I could fill them in on what's going on there, and perhaps they would take that on. That would be amazing. Things like Cavanagh, there's conversations going on there, which I know Peter is involved in as well. And I don't doubt that Katie and Peter are going to be driving that conversation forward on the number 6, the good old number 6 bus as well still. So that is it. Thank you everybody. And you'll be pleased to hear I'm going to move on with the meeting now.
And just say
Yeah.
thanks to you
Oh,
for all your hard work and your amazing chairing and
definitely wouldn't use that one.
I think, Amanda, it's fair to say that you have grown enormously in the role since the first meetings we've had. Yeah, physically as well. But it's been a real pleasure to have you as mayor. I feel really proud of you and where you know how far you've come. It's been amazing. Thank you.
No, thank you. Right. So, call councillors, we don't have any, do
No,
we?
we have apologies.
None this evening, so over to the public participation part of the evening. Good evening, Chris. I'll come over to you next. Yes.
Well, this morning, this afternoon, I decided that I would go to the important meeting about dredging of the canal. Now, I'm fully aware that there are appalling acoustics in that hall. So I accept it. I accept that it could be me, that my hearing's not what I thought it was. And I am aware that you have a project to have battles and such like fitted. But it considered to me, and of course I don't know when that's going to be done, but I was sitting about 6 rows back from the front row of all the people that might speak, and it was like watching an old-fashioned
Silent movie.
coloured film with no sound. I did not hear a single word that was said, and it was further made worse that when people were asking questions, because they were facing away from me, I couldn't hear what they were saying either. Right? So I am aware that you've got a project in hand to have baffles fitted, but I thought, why not make it a condition that anybody that wants to use the hall, that they use your microphone system, and then you have the best of both worlds. Because I don't know what guarantees you will get with the baffle system, whether they will guarantee that if you're sitting at the back you'll hear as good as someone sitting at the front, because I think that's impossible. I mean, I said I was a bit late getting there. I did, knowing what it was like, I did intend to be there in time to sit perhaps in the front row, and I probably would have heard what she said. So I had no idea what went on. I watched the pretty pictures and the captions, and your deputy clerk kindly got from the main speaker a basic printout of what she was talking about. But apart from that, and I wasn't the only one, there were lots of people there who didn't hear a word. So why not do 2 things? And have the baffles fitted, but also make it a condition of the hiring agreement. If anyone wants to hire the hall, they must use the public address system, and then you got the best of both worlds. Because it was it was almost a waste of time going. I mean, I've got plenty of time the rest of my life further along. That is, I was really disappointed.
Yeah,
Can I just say, your hearing is good. Because I was the same line as you, I could hear fairly clearly what she was saying. I mean, it's not as clear as it could have been, and it should have been through a
Are you
PA
talking
system.
to me?
Yes. Hello!
Yeah, no, I accept it might be. And there might be something that I need to do something about. But I wasn't the only one. There were other people. In fact, there was someone sitting on the end who had a hearing aid and he couldn't hear it either.
I've made a note.
All right, it's just an observation because
Keith was in front of you.
Sorry?
Keith was in front of you. and he could hear, right, I'm sure.
I'm not that old.
No, I know.
But no, we'll take that on board. I'm not sure about making it a condition, but yes, I must admit when I sat there, I mean obviously it was
Yes.
all council's gig, as it were. They, in hindsight, they should have had the
Yes.
they should have mics.
There probably is something we could probably just take back to oversight is actually potentially producing accessibility guidelines for different rooms to give to people who hire them out. So, for example, in that room, it could be, there could be issues with audio in this room. Please expect to be able to use the system. This is how it works, and this is how. Please come 10, 15 minutes early to learn to use the system. Like just things like that. Like maybe it's about having in this room, can wheelchairs get up the ramp and things like that. It's just like notes for someone hiring that room that they could pull on.
Can I say something? In mitigation for today's thing, they were supposed to be in this room, but there was too many people for the meeting. They were then going into room 4. There were too many people for the meeting, so we put them in room in the hall. And in hindsight, I should have asked the caretaker to get out microphones. It's my fault.
Yeah, I was going to say the gentleman sitting next to me, and we were 3 rows back, he had hearing aids on,
Yeah.
and he said he didn't hear a thing.
There is a hearing loop in there. You should turn
Yeah.
it on.
But did they know that? Cool.
It's a sign. Everyone knows that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Was there any? Did you have anything
Well,
else?
I'll wait. I live in anticipation. I can't wait for the next public meeting.
Mr. Jennings.
This flag business, you insulted every Cornish person in Bude last year with you taking the Cornish flag down for a few queers and gays and Christ knows what.
Okay. You need to keep it respectful.
I am. I was being polite, very, believe you me. What is you're interested in? Why are you so against the Cornish people and their flag? If you had half as much interest in us as you did your friends from whatever they are, it would be all right. You discriminated against the Cornish people.
I don't
Yes, you did. You took our flag
I
down.
can't see how letting everybody have.
Well, you make a fuss about they were discriminated against if their flag didn't float.
If that's you.
It's not just my opinion. Quite a few people I spoke to were against it.
Okay.
It's our flag. It should be flown.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? No. Okay. On to number 9 then. To receive the executive summary report of the building survey of the Parkhouse Centre, noting the long-term implications and agreeing necessary repair actions.
A long extract from what turned out to be 7 sub-reports. Really, I'm putting it to council just as, in effect, you are the custodians of the building, and it is appropriate you are aware of its condition and the things that we need to move on. So there's no, there's no surprises. It's not about to collapse or do anything terrible, but there are a number of things that need addressing across the estate, as it were. So having commissioned the detailed survey, really reporting it back to council for you to be aware, and really to be aware of all the things that the facilities team will progress and either move on within their workload, or some of the bigger projects will be coming back to you in due course as the contract out.
Can I just raise one issue, and that was the interesting one about introducing guarding to the large drops. I know, but they have to step off a path, go onto grass, and then deliberately fall.
That's what children do sometimes.
What children do, but they do that anyway. But I mean, I don't call that a large drop. I just personally think it's a waste of money. Because it's been there for what, 40 years since the schools were packed in? 50 years?
But if someone did fall down it, presumably we would be liable.
Well,
If
you
we
could
don't-
sue them for being...
Well, increasingly, this is the world we're in. We are risk averse, and we have to identify risks and address them. So
And
this
the
is
lock, the lock gates aren't ours, but you know, and
well,
cliffs.
we will deal with our.
When you stop.
All I can say is this is a professional surveyor that we've employed to assess the against current standards, and that's an issue that they've raised. So it's one that we need to think about and address.
Okay.
Well, in my view, obviously we should do the urgent stuff. That's understandable, but I don't think that we should wait too much longer to do the flood risk assessment. And I think that it would be well timed for that to come back to the council. And I mean, there's a couple of other things as well. I'm surprised we haven't had a fire assessment and a gas and electricity certificates. Perhaps we have. So those seem urgent to me, but it feels to me like until we understand the flood risk assessment, I'm not sure how much more money we should be spending. I don't know. So, well, obviously understanding that you've got to do things that you feel are for the upkeep of the building, but I'd like to see that flood risk assessment come back.
There's obviously quite a lot in the further investigations. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to move forward with this. Would it be, can you see this going back to oversight to like mark up specific things with?
I think, I would imagine, I'm just assuming really, but Keith will correct me if I'm wrong, it's a more sort of general,
Holistic.
permission to work through the list as they see fit, prioritising as Steve would know how to prioritise, and just to come back to full council with anything particularly big or...
Yeah, in essence, I think in terms of just general progress, that is an oversight issue in terms of management of the building. So through the facilities manager with his reports will be including elements of this work, things like flood risk we can kind of highlight to make sure that's part of that. And then say, should there be major pieces of work, then there'll be a full council decision. So there's plenty of maintenance things that...
Yes, cool.
If you were concerned about a drop, then the path the other side of the castle, which is a very rickety path at best, right on the edge of a drop, whereas this path over here, I'd just like to point that out. If you're going down a path, let's do it. And I'd like to see how you're going to do that one. Answers, you ban people going on that path, which has historically always been there. Life is strange, isn't it? There you go. I'll leave that one with you. Keith, that is.
So would you like a sort of resolution to say that we're happy for this to be kind of worked through?
Yes.
So, yeah. Yes, Sean?
Did you have a hand?
I was just waving my pencil.
Oh, no. Could I, amend, go back to what Philip has said, and could we amend that flood risk assessment gets bumped into the urgent?
Yeah. Okay.
Is that okay?
So if we propose that the number 1, the flood risk specialist, moves up into the urgent list as a number 4, and then it's worked through as they see fit, sort of, from that point on, and anything that needs to be brought back to full council for decision is done so.
Second that.
Okay. All those in favour? Yep. Thank you. Yep. Okay, number 10, to receive the survey of the Hollebury Road allotment site and determine the course of action.
Yeah, I've put a paper together for you, because obviously we were asked to further this as a project, and so the next step was to conduct the survey, which I think I sent out, but to be honest, obviously there's a lot of detail there, but to sum that up quite succinctly, the building is a wreck. Apart from the roofs, the floors and the walls, it's fine. But remember,
the air inside it as well.
in essence, this whole project is about the allotments. First and foremost, we were approached by the Allotment Association to say they're under threat and for us to consider whether, well, in first instance, they were about compulsory purchase. So where we're at the moment is obviously the hall is part of the whole site. So if we buy the site, we get the hall. So in essence, you've got three kind of areas to think about. One is kind of just the value of the investment and the benefit it brings. There's a price which is the sellers have set. We haven't yet got actually a district valuer's valuation, which might be the next step to confirm how near or far that is from what is reasonable. We've got the issue around the allotments. If we are to proceed, how is that going to work? I would suggest you have a plan before you enter into this, and maybe more discussion needed, because is the intention or the expectation just to let the allotment association current in existence run it as they always have, as it were, and the council to be arm's length from it and just lease it out, or is there something else the council expects from the arrangement or how it works in the future? And importantly, in terms of, especially for a number of reasons, is that old mission hall. And I'll remind, there were various discussions of previous councils before we had this survey report as to what could be done with it, and could it be a community facility or should it be preserved. And again, I think we need to think very clearly and set a direction about if we are to proceed the whole thing, what we want to do. My advice is it isn't worth saving in the sense of the amount of money to be spent to correct it. We haven't costed it, but it will more than double or treble perhaps the cost of the land. And I know how much the pitch and putt pavilion cost 5-6 years ago, and this is a bit smaller, but not hugely smaller. So, we are talking an awful lot of money if you want a community hall there. And I'd also suggest, actually, if we wanted to invest in a community hall, that's probably not the location that we would have started with. So, there are other things you could do with that land. I mean, expand the allotments or whatever. But, so there's a number of issues the council, I think, I'm saying as officers, we need your input and direction before we take this further.
I think Kelly had her hand up first, actually.
In a second. I was just wondering if someone could remind me how big the plot is, because I couldn't see it when I was reading through. The full plot with the allotment, as in like the bit that we're thinking about buying.
The best I can give you on top of my head is 40 paces. Because I went down there today to have a look.
That's the hall.
The frontage of the plot is about 40 yards.
I don't know, it just seems to me like the valuation is off. I don't know, but I just feel like we're looking at a plot of land essentially that you might as well just remove the building from. And it's one that doesn't have residential planning permission. It's one with like the possibility of planning permission.
Yeah.
It just seems like a lot of money, and I'm not sure that we can make any decisions really until we get a valuation and know. I mean, if they come back and say it's worth 30,000, that's a very different decision from 70.
Can I say something on that? Can I? 2 seconds. Whatever happens to that place, it's got a lot of historic value to them. But whatever happens, you can't develop it into a hall again because of the parking down there. It's a dead area. It's not being used for something else.
And I'll come down to you all.
Yeah, I've had a look at the report. It's clearly asbestos, it's a write-off. And I did think about, well, low-cost housing, for local people, site, potentially it could be developed. But then, again, potentially the cost of the site will go up afterwards, right? There's a covenant on it. So actually, it seems to me, the smart thing to do might be to, and I said this yesterday, let nature decide. Knock the building down and turn it into more allotments, or a nature garden and have a little bit of biodiversity down there, because we don't want to. Parking down there is a nightmare. It's a really crowded little area, and actually it could be used by the community as a little amenity area, a little garden, You know, we don't have to build stuff all the time. And I guess if Kelly's right about the valuation, if you get it for less than 17, great. But I'd be happy to see us buy it, demolish and turn it into a natural environment.
Thank you, Martin. I'll go down to Paul.
Yeah, two things. First one is, does the building have any historical significance? Ian? Who's into this sort of thing?
Didn't Peter think it was one of the last 2 remaining mission halls or something?
Well, therefore, I mean, there might be grants
could be wrong.
to do it up, what I'm saying. But if it does go, parking is the footfall of the building is the parking for 2 cars or whatever. You know, you wouldn't get rid of it.
Yeah, but then you couldn't park a car in front of where people park now anyway. Being a resident of Holbury Road.
Oh, it's you.
Yeah. You could restrict people to having 1 car, that'd be ace. But yeah, that's not bad either. No.
Has anybody thought about thinking outside the box on this one? It is quite a historic little property, if it's one of only 2 mission halls left.
Could be wrong, don't quote me.
Yeah, no, if it is one of
I
only
don't know,
2
it's not good.
mission halls throughout the country, has anybody thought of talking to the Landmark Trust? Because they take on those sorts of properties that are not always Grade 1 listed or anything. And then, yes, they might turn it into a holiday let, but, which isn't particularly, you know, PC correct or what have you, but it could be a way of preserving that building, giving it a purpose.
I mean, I think the original sort of purpose for us as a council was to do the allotments.
Yeah, but at the same time, perhaps being in conjunction with them,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Because you could then preach to the people to some extent who come there about the benefits of allotments, etc. Let nature take its have a say.
Okay. Thank you, Vicky. Kevin? Go to Philip.
I believe the last time this was discussed, there was a legal case between the Allotment Association and the owners to ascertain whether they could actually sell it. Do we know if that's been resolved?
No, that's going to be ongoing for some time, and the owners who have the registration is the Church Society, and they would also need permission from the Charity Commission in order to sell it, because they're under certain stipulations. So, like many a thing, and I'm afraid I say this on most things, it seems that it's complicated. These things take, unfortunately, there's a lot of things to work through, and different processes run at different time spans. So, yeah, there's no guarantee that we could even buy it if we wanted to, because they may not get permission, and there may be other impediments to selling it. But I'm trying to, in one sense, the council, I suppose, needs to we need to line up what we would want to do or like to do, and then we'll have to adapt to the circumstances.
Thank you.
My feeling is that once we've obtained this independent valuation, which I think we really should do, if it indicates a price that we can afford and that we can actually buy it, I think we should buy it. But I think we should ask the current association that's running it to continue to run it, but with widening the eligibility, so that they make it a conditional and that they open their waiting list up to the whole community rather than just people on Holbury Road. Personally, I think as well we should demolish the building, but I think we should then go to the Allotment Association and say to them, aside from 2 car parking spaces, what do you want on that spot? Do you want a meadow? Would you like a shed? Would you like a polytunnel? Would you like a bike rack? Some kind of low cost, alternative to that. So I think that we could probably do that in kind of cahoots with them, and then obviously we'd need to set aside some amount in our revenue budget so that we can kind of match fund what the Allotment Association has to make sure that there's some upkeep on it. And hopefully at some point as the allotments change hands, it'll become a wider benefit to the community than just a Holbury Road. So that's my
Thank you. Katie?
Reading the survey, even if you somehow magically replaced every single bit of wood in there, like, because it is all completely rotten, right? You still need to take off the asbestos roof. So I think I worked out to be about 15 square metres maybe. Like, well, it looked to be about 5 metres by about 10 metres. It could be a bit more. Yeah, well, it's like £25 per square metre to get rid of asbestos. And so it could be up to like £2,500 to remove just the roof. That's not including getting rid of the rest of it. And then the other thing you have to worry about is if you do want to turn it into another allotment space, there's obviously contamination, which is what they raised in that report as well. It's like the ground will be contaminated. We don't know even what was there before. It might have been something else that had a load of asbestos before, got rid of, and then put the new asbestos thing up. So, and that bit of research, we probably don't necessarily want to try doing soil samples or whatever. But I think it's definitely worth looking at next step to actually start to look at seriously getting in like a price estimate for what it would be to A, destroy it, or B, just take off the roof, and then we can think of things otherwise. I mean, basically, because that's two separate people. The person destroying it's not going to be the person getting rid of the asbestos roof. They've got specialist companies that do that.
So as has been said a few times, perhaps with the whole phased process thing, which we all like, start off with the district valuation, because that is the deciding factor straight off anyway, isn't it? That gives us a starting point. And then on from that would be what would it cost to remove
the asbestos,
the building.
Removal and disposal of the asbestos. Yeah.
Well, if we got a demolition quote, which
That
would
would include
and asked separately within that the cost of the roof,
Yeah.
then we would kind of know the whole.
That's right, yeah. You would get
so
the.
that's another cost that you would have to allow for.
And from your point of view, Keith, would you do that as two very separate things, or would you start off with those two as a starting point, and which gives us hopefully an idea of whether we would want to go further? Would you want to propose that we do one of those first?
Well, I think if you are minded to agree both of those things, we will kind of sort the order and the timing as to what makes sense.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Yes, Vicky.
Could I just ask that we try approach the Landmark Trust, because all you've got to do is send in a few photos and state why the building needs help. It is an opportunity to preserve a building.
Would they, sorry, just to clarify, do they only sort of turn them into some kind of residential?
Not always, no. Some of their other properties do become permanent dwellings.
I mean, okay.
They have a variety of properties throughout the UK, Scotland. They've got some in Italy, they've got one or two in the States. But in general, they take on historic buildings and in general try and turn them into holiday lets, because that makes the money to support the other buildings. The most recent development they've done near here is over at Holwell, Windsor Cottage Hospital, that was becoming a derelict ruin. They've taken it on, they've totally refurbished it, even down to the Boise, who was a very notable arts and crafts architect, even to restoring all his grills, specific window catches, the mosaic, the tessellate flooring, etc., etc.
Do we just need to find out if it is a building of significance first?
Yeah.
I'm not sure we have a factual, I don't think we have a factual statement on that. I think his opinion was that these are becoming rare, but I don't know that we have any actual direct.
So we need to do a little fact-finding into that if possible. And yes, of course.
The significance of the site and the uniqueness of a building of that nature tied to an allotment, you don't necessarily have to retain either the building or the allotment to tell that story on the site. So if there is a story to be told there about how it was a community site and how this is quite unique in having a mission hall and an allotment in the same place, you can have an interpretation board there that tells that story of how that site came to be. So that is just another option. My fear is that the building is a bit like Trigger's Brew. By the time you've prepared it, it's not the building that was there anymore.
just.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. Yes, Philippa. I was going to say,
It's raining out.
Is it?
yeah, it must have been that one.
It's not for me, it's just for my laptop.
I don't want it fizzing.
Okay, so a proposal then that we start off by
District valuation.
district valuation
Probably get rid of stop raining.
and to find out if there was any significant historical value. Can we do that or?
We can try. There's the other.
Without doing that, yeah.
And a
And-
quote for demolition.
And a quote for demolition of the building. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, all those in favour then, please. Yep. Okay, thank you everyone. Okay, to initiate the procurement policy review and establish a working group.
Yeah, this is again a discussion that's happened at oversight. We did a sort of prioritising of the projects in there. First that came out was the emergency planning project, but we've got some things in place for somebody to come along and talk to us about that. And we felt as well that that might be more of an officer-led thing because it's a piece of the kind of infrastructure of the council that is probably required. So the second one was a procurement. We talked a little bit about this at the oversight committee. I used this draft terms of reference for a forum, and I suppose that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we probably need somebody in the. I think once we've agreed the terms of reference, maybe then we can talk about who wants to share it, who wants to be on it, and stuff like that. But I don't know. Do you feel that those two things have to come tonight, or?
Well, I think my advice would be if you agree the terms of reference, I would then just populate it with councillors, and obviously then there are, if you want to populate it with anyone else, community volunteers and sort out sharing all those things afterwards. But I think tonight it would be worth knowing which councillors are wanting to work on that.
So can I propose this draft terms of reference? Obviously it could be tweaked as we go along and we find out the true reality of this.
All those in favour?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then you want a second resolution to find out who wants to be on it?
Please, yeah. Otherwise they can't get going on one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to be on it.
So a raise of hands really for anybody that would like to be involved in the procurement policy.
We have Philippa, Katie, Martin, Kevin, and Ethan.
You've got all that, Tracy, yeah. Lovely. All right. All those in favour? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, to consider a request to fly the Pride flag for LGBTQ+ History Month in February. Okay, so we've got the request there, which has been received from Bude Pride. Yes, Katie?
I guess I'd like to try and make sure it's not necessarily the pride flag, it's the progressive pride flag which is different, or we're not going to be able to do it?
Got time.
It won't be the
No, because
progressive
of the
flag,
permission you have to
pride
have.
flag this month, as it will next month,
Mm.
because that will need the
Is it 8 weeks?
permission.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just haven't got the time
Okay.
scale, unfortunately.
Sorry, does that one that you talk about, that needs planning permission, doesn't
The
it?
progressive one does.
Yeah, yeah.
The one that they're
Planning
proposing.
So you've actually got to pay for planning permission for that, haven't you?
Consent, yeah.
Who pays that?
The council.
The council would,
Okay.
but that's not what we're talking about.
No, just interested.
You're extending the policy that the requester.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know.
in the floodplain policy, I'm sure it said the person that requests it is the person that pays Does it?
In the drop, yeah.
Yes, a slight dilemma here.
Yeah, I was going to say, we need a conversation about this, so that's why I was
Outside of the policy, as it goes, well, yeah, the protocol is that if a flag that needs extra permission is requested, then the requester will be asked to pay for that. Comes down actually to the original. If it's a council request or council instruction decision to fly the flag, then obviously the council would pay for that. At the moment, obviously, we only have permission or ability to fly the rainbow flag. Yeah, the original. I think you just have to be clear on which route you wanted to take. At the moment, we wouldn't be able to do it for February this year anyway. So
No.
Yeah,
So
it's just
yeah,
deal with it
yeah,
than what we've
yeah,
got on the table.
yeah, exactly. So in front of us, we are in a situation where we would be flying the, what's the official name?
the requested acknowledge the fact that if we couldn't get permission,
Then it would be the rainbow.
So with the policy now, it took into effect when we voted on it. Does that mean that isn't it just? Do we need to vote on it, or
Yes,
just observe it?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that policy is saying that it gets brought to us and we vote.
Okay. That's cool. All right.
Yeah, in a, again, in a spirit of a heavy heart, I will be voting against this one, and I think everybody around the table should also vote against this one in respect to the flagpole at Shoulder Hill. As I said earlier tonight, I wouldn't start from here, but we have made precedents to fly the Pride flag at all flagpoles, including Shoulder Hill, for Pride Month, and I think we should sort of settle for that. That, if we want to, we've demonstrated, in my view, we have demonstrated inclusivity, and we have demonstrated outreach to the LGBTQ plus community by doing that. This seems like a step slightly too far, in my opinion. That would be 2 months out of 12 that we're flying a particular flag associated with a particular section of our community. And I know that there will be strong opinions counter to this. But I believe that if we have compromised with the flying of the Pride flag for Pride Month, we should accept that is the compromise and not push it on that particular flagpole in other times of the year, unless there is a single one-off day or event of particular importance. But the whole month seems to me excessive. I'm only referring to Shoulder Hill. I think that other flagpoles do not have that same emotive issue. I just leave it, I'll put it out there.
I'm going to go to Kevin. Kelly. Sorry.
I don't know if the public can speak. Can I ask a question of Kevin about something he's just said, just to clarify what he's...
Yeah.
Kevin, you mentioned Pride Month. Now, I think we were talking about LGBTQ plus History Month for this February.
Yeah, this is
Are they two separate months?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
This is
February and June.
Yeah,
so on a clarification, the what has already been decided, which is the flag protocol, would be to fly the Pride flag during that Pride Month, with the exception of the particular days mentioned, such as D-Day anniversary and so on. This is a separate request under the the flagpole protocol. So we have to make a separate decision as to whether we want that flag in February as well.
Kelly?
I understand what you're saying, because it crossed my mind at one point as well, you know, are we pushing this too far? But then I kind of had a word with myself and thought, can you push demonstrating inclusivity too far? I don't think that I personally can, like, I don't think that's something that you can do. If there was a kind of, you know, other organisations coming to us that also want to demonstrate their inclusivity, their cause, their passion, and they wanted to fly that at the same time, then it's a decision that we'd have to make and sit down and say, well, maybe Pride Month have had it on Shoulder Hill in June, and maybe we have to give someone else a turn, blah, blah, blah. But that's not the case. They're the only ones that have asked, and we can fly, you know, the flag. And I think as we can, we should.
Okay, Martin?
I agree with Kelly. I think we've just voted on a protocol, and the protocol says when people request a flag that we should consider that request, and in the spirit of fairness, inclusion and respect that everybody seems to be talking about, both for everybody, I think we need to be voting with our consciences here, and that's what this is. It's a vote of conscience. I'll personally be in favour of it. I'll vote in favour of it flying. Because I believe in fairness, inclusion and respect for everybody. Thank you.
Except for Cornish people.
So something that I've been absolutely geeking out about recently is the release of the census data, which tells us exactly who marks themselves as LGBTQ imbued, who marks themselves as Cornish, etc., etc. So we've got some real figures here about how many people imbued say that actually they don't see themselves as straight. So it's only 89.47% of Bude sees themselves as straight and mark themselves as straight, which means that's over 10% who didn't mark themselves as straight within that census. So that's 1 in 10 people walking around us. That's in this room as well. The same as that as well is actually the question marked as same sex as birth. So only 93.41% of people in that census mark themselves as saying that they see themselves as being the same sex as same sex as they were at birth. So that means, you know, potentially there's quite a few people of Bude who, by the way, this is people who have filled in the census. So, you know, this is potentially older people who have marked in for their kids, etc. This is people, like there's one person in the household that's allowed to do like fill in the census. It's not like everyone fills it in themselves sort of thing. So there could be much more, but it could be that those people don't want to admit in front of their family or friends, the person fill out the census, truly what they feel like. So to suggest that this might be a small minority of Bude is, well, it's not a small minority, like 10% is not a small minority by any chance. So yeah, it's quite interesting in the census. And I could bring up the census data exactly who identifies themselves as Cornish as well as a comparison, because that's quite interesting. But I'm sure you can look it up yourself because it's all available like online. It's great.
Yeah, I haven't really planned to say anything, but off the back of what Katie was saying, it's actually the first time that that kind of data has been recorded in a census as well, so that's super historic. And to take it back to what's on the table, the proposal is a request from a community organisation, and I strongly support it and will be voting in favour of flying the flag throughout the month of February.
Thank you.
On Katie's lovely statistics, it does imply that 90% of the people in Bude more than likely do not want that flag up there. It depends how you look at life.
This little twisted figure still
I'm straight,
But we have no proof of numbers at all.
Yeah, but 10% of
No,
people.
no. We don't know for Bude. We do. I know the figures you read out, but that they weren't technically accurate because you said so yourself. Whoever filled out the form was totally biased.
When I mentioned getting a petition and getting names, nobody seemed to care about it.
Not always.
Disappointing, but don't worry.
Office of National Statistics.
Yeah.
They know how to get the best of this data
Oh,
to
do
be
they?
as accurate as possible.
Yes.
I would question that.
I did just want to make one final point, not to cause any kind of bother or anything, but I know you focused on the cost there to the council if we were to pay for planning permission for any flag, whether it was the progressive flag or whatever. But I just wanted to sort of say, because I heard what you said after we carried on, the council obviously voted recently to build a whole new alternative memorial area for the use of the RBL to make it more accessible on Shoulder Hill. Obviously that's going to involve the cost of moving a tank trap, the wave bench, planting the area and everything. We're very happy to do that. We think that's the right thing to do to increase, accessibility to the hill. So I just wanted to put it in perspective a bit. If we did then pay £263 for any organisation to have a flag, it's all organisations can come to us with a cost. I would like to
I get it. I
pick
get it.
that and then
But I represent the Armed Forces community.
yeah.
We've got Armed Forces Day in June.
Yeah.
Just a day, not
Yeah.
a month or 2 months. It's a big civic event. Lots of councils all around Cornwall, including Falmouth, are spending thousands of pounds to celebrate these forces people. And what are Bude doing? I'll tell you what Bude Council are doing. Nothing. Exactly the same they've done for the Queen's 70th Jubilee or whatever it's called. Nothing. Nothing spent on those two.
No, it's categorically not true. We spent a huge amount on it actually.
Okay.
I'm sure Margaret Castle will be very pleased to hear.
The castle?
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. I just wanted to bring that out there. So back to the actual discussion. Sorry.
Just make it clear that the request is not necessarily to fly the flag
on its own.
On its own.
Pride flag on its own.
So you can fly the Cornish flag as well.
Yes.
Or the Union flag as well.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, if there aren't any more, oh yes, Vicky.
Just after what you said, just out of interest, the Cornish flag would fall into a category A flag, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas the Pride flag would fall into a lower category. So should the category A flag be then flown above the lower?
Yeah, that's the legal. Yeah.
Sorry, I took a bite of food. Keep talking, but please.
No, I didn't realise that the LGBT is combined with History Month. Because it always just was History Month. So is there a specific flag for History Month?
There will be.
Not that I know.
The way
Yeah. Not
it's
yet.
going. Kevin will make one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was just scanning over it again on all the available right here. That's what I was looking for. Sorry.
That's a request that obviously the
Yes.
council can resolve.
Yes. Yes.
I do wonder, we've got 4 flagpoles, they do have very different prominence.
Yeah.
In our recently adopted policy, they don't have it, we don't distinguish between them at all.
No.
I'm a little bit, I don't want to use the word uncomfortable, but I recognise the almost antagonistic nature of flying the flag for a second, the Pride flag for a second month on all the flagpoles, and I do wonder if maybe, I mean, I'm quite happy to do that this time round, but in future it might be that we do need to kind of start ascribing some sense of priority to the different flagpoles, just because otherwise, the request has come to flag it from all, to flag from all of them, which I'm not sure I see the need for that personally. Like I say, we've just voted on the new policy, happy to give it a go. I think these things need to evolve, but there is a danger that that we will stir up, or sort of antagonise some members of the community with a second month and all 4 flags. Let's see how it goes and let's respond to that accordingly, I suppose.
Just to advise, I mean, it is, this is our request, so it is for the council to decide what it wishes to do. You don't have to accept it, it needn't be a yes or a full yes or no, there is that option, but that is for councillors to table, as it were, on propose.
Could I formally propose that we grant the request in respect of every flagpole except Shoulder Hill?
Okay. All those in favour, please. And all those against? And abstain?
I didn't vote because I...
Lost.
Abstain.
Yes, I abstained.
Yeah.
I'm abstaining.
We've all been there.
That's against.
Sorry.
That's against.
Okay.
So,
Katie?
I propose that we accept the request in its
Across all flagpoles.
across its exactly how they requested it.
Okay.
Second that.
Okay. All those in favour?
No.
No.
Okay. Against? Abstain. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Can I just, for clarity, yes, that obviously that
Yes.
was carried, just for clarity, so I'm just reading the request, that won't be the pride flag solely,
Yeah,
Yes.
it will be alongside
Yeah,
Yeah.
the national flags.
or underneath
Yeah.
the national, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, great.
Okay, any key issues from lead councillors? Katie?
So I had a great catch up with Cornwall Council in regards to all the massive issues that we have on our list. The one that I want to bring forward, which I'm not quite sure how nobody knows how to tackle yet, is, this is going to sound really far future, but automated car systems. Okay, because, alright, so, we as humans know the speed limit in an area, but it's definitely come to my attention that there's automated car systems that think going down across the golf course is 60 miles an hour. That's going around Flexbury at 30. That's going through Puggle. Like, the reason why we might be starting to get a lot more people asking about needing speed like cameras and things like that is because actually some of these automated car systems are just in normal cruise control that are supposed to be detecting what's in the area, looking up databases, have actually got wrong data. So I'm actually, like, I've talked to Cornwall Council about this, and they've got a forum nationally that they go to about talking with like car manufacturers and things like that about car automation. There's obviously the stuff that I'm trying to do, like fix it on Google Maps if it's an issue, fix it on Open. I'm also talking to Volkswagen and some of the other manufacturers as well, trying to see where they get their data from so we can fix it. But actually, I mean, there's only so much I can do personally. It's basically, if someone's driving around a car and they've got this sort of cruise control, if they see it suddenly start accelerating, which is the wrong speed, like, please tell me, and then I can see how common this is. Like, is it just certain brands of car? Is it, like, you know, like, is it actually certain areas the problem? Because, you know, we can do all the good. Like, I literally sit in the car at the moment, and I'm, like, you know, on the cruise control thinking it's all fine, and suddenly it accelerates incredibly quickly, going across Sainsbury's, and I'm like, have to stop it down. So, not ideal. So, yeah, if the general public as a large can just report, it seems like it is a problem with your car, but report those sorts of issues to me, then I can start to see where it's falling down, really.
Okay. Is it okay to ask Cal to do like one of the comments on it? Would that be alright?
I will talk to Cal about it, but I don't know. It's not something necessarily want to adopt as a big thing. It's like here's an observation we've found.
Sending them to Katie if
Yeah.
you've had this or something like that. I don't know.
For my car.
Any other councillors?
I mean, just to briefly say on housing, you mentioned the other day, Philip, you didn't know that the housing survey had been published. Yes, it has. I'm also going to try and set up a meeting between myself, Peter LeBroy and Ian Mason, who's part of the Community Land Trust, or is Community Land Trust North Cornwall.
Yeah.
That is in the offing when I...
Great.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah. Philippa.
The reason I asked whether it had been published or not is because we saw at planning committee a proposal for plans with affordable housing, and the affordable housing officers said in their report that that hadn't been published.
Oh.
Now, I don't know how old that affordable housing officer report was, but I wonder if someone could get back to them and say that it has.
Can I qualify this? It was published briefly when it was concluded, but we published the draft version. So we then pulled it. We now have the final version, which came through last week, so we can republish that.
Okay.
But it's quite nice because from a comms point of view, we can remind people to register on the housing registers, which was quite a key finding. So I will note republish.
And also perhaps if you could get in touch with the affordable housing officer at Cornwall Council
And
just to let them know.
Yeah.
Great. Jamie.
Hello.
Hi.
Through my work, I've been part of a group called the Bude Working Group, which has been set up by the County Council, which is Chris Sims and I can't remember. But part the two topics that they're focusing on are the council estates within Bude and trying to build communities through those. And they've sort of splintered it's all on teams, they've splintered the working groups off into, when they split the teams off. And the other one is actually youth provision, so that's why I'm sitting in there. And we are looking at getting funding through county councils, funding people, but we do require a building. So I'm just putting it out there that they are focusing a lot of attention, and actually for children who I work for are focusing a lot of attention on Bude for the rest of their term of the contract, which is another 8 years for youth provision. But we really do require a specific building for the young people that is theirs.
Yeah.
So if anybody knows of a building like the old auction house or something like that, drive on. Oh yeah, just to make sure you keep the bass down. So yeah, I mean, I've been trying various avenues, and there is a lot of funding out there for youth provision at the moment. So it's a bit of the old catch-22. You can't get the funding without the building. You can't have the building without the funding. So if there is anything that anybody knows of that we could actually try and beg and plead by.
Do you know what is going on with the tripod?
Yes, I do actually. I've actually spoke to the owner.
Oh, okay. I'm really interested.
She bought it at auction for about 800 grand, and she has no clue what to do with it.
I was still in that situation.
Yeah,
Moved on.
she thought that she could develop it into certain things, but because of the way it was built, there's no way that she could possibly do that. So she is looking to sell it again.
Right.
But I've tried getting the county council to buy it, but obviously they won't touch it with the wrong end of a stick. But yeah, there is an opportunity to buy that if we've got anybody got a spare 1.5 million. No? Hang on. But yeah, I can get the funding to renovate that whole building. I can get £1 million to renovate it into an amazing youth hub, but actually funding to actually buy the building doesn't exist. I did try and plead with it to say, why don't you just do something great so you can die a happy person, but didn't work. Yeah. You've got to keep counting pennies. So yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up. But I will find out specifically what the other splinter group is, because obviously I vanish and they vanish, so I don't really know that. So it might be of interest to another member of this lovely council to actually sit on that. I did invite Michael Dorr to He did sitting on one, but he missed the last one, so he's sat on the youth provision. Alright.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I think we're on to the financial report approval, are we? Okay. So the schedule of payments made between the 16th of December and the 12th of January. Propose that we approve those. Oh, sorry.
Ask a question.
Yeah.
I think it's on that one. There's a price for a TV licence. When we were talking at the Home Rooms meeting recently, there was some clarity about whether the TV licence actually enabled us to broadcast to a public group.
It's separate, but the warm room funding is buying the movie licence we need to show movies here.
Okay.
So that's coming out of Meadside.
Right. So the TV licence is kind of not really
Well,
useful if we can't.
It might be if they wanted to watch telly, potentially because it's live, and I think we could, well, maybe we'd have to look into it. It's certainly good for the request that was put in because they wanted the licence for a coronation event, I believe.
That's right.
So we have a premises licence as well.
Right. So we can do that.
That I think will be fine. It's just the showing of
brilliant.
DVDs because it's outside your home and it's in a public.
It was really the TV licence because we are a public body, and so if we can't show TV to the public, we've kind of all we've got is a TV that the staff can watch in their lunch break. When lunch break, what do you think?
Well, couldn't you buy us a TV then? Because we haven't got one.
There's a lovely warm room. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, proposal that we approve the payments made between the 16th of December and 12th of January. Thank you. All those in favour? That was everybody, wasn't it? Yeah. Sorry, thank you. Propose that we approve the schedule of payments to be made on the 30th of January, unless anyone has questions.
It's always the fours and the ands and
That's seconded, so all those in favour? All those against? Abstain? Thank you very much. Okay, so I would like to pass the following resolution, that in relation to the remaining items on the agenda, publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted, and the press and public are instructed to withdraw. So the following item is confidential and the meeting will proceed in closed session. I propose that we do that. Seconded, all those in favour? Okay, I think that's everybody. Yeah, okay, so we must
Amanda,
take part, yes.
just before the public
Yes.
get heat up,
Yeah.
could I bring up what I think might be a point of order? Okay. I didn't mention anything about this while the item was actually being discussed,
Right.
because it's a pretty sensitive issue. And I didn't sort of want to ruffle any more feathers than necessary. I'm sorry to have to pick out Katie Good, because I've been very pleased. You know, Katie's come up with some very, very good comments in all the time I've been watching what's going on here. But in particular, I've noted that, Katie, you said only 89.47% of Bude identify as straight, and you also said that only 93.41% of Bude identify as the same sex as both. Okay.
I said didn't mark themselves in the census.
Yeah, it's the word only
Yeah.
that I kind of take issue with. Now, and then when somebody mentioned in sort of reverse, if you like, that only 10% of these people then are of the opposite nature, okay, or 5%. So, in other words, if 89.47% of Bude identify as straight, and there's just under 10% who don't identify as straight. Now, when that was pointed out, you said you can't say only it's a lot of people. Now, I agree with you. You know, we don't know how many, but it is a lot of people. It's probably scores or perhaps even hundreds. I don't know. But what I would say is I would be grateful, personally, if you're going to talk about 1 in 10 of the population, you don't say only. I don't care in what context. 89.47% of the population is not only 89.4%, it is the vast majority. So it just came across as, you know, you're thinking that 89% is only. No, it's not only, it's the majority. So I didn't.
It's fine. I'm dyslexic, so my words aren't necessarily the best.
Yeah.
I think I was trying to word was there's an assumption that it's a really tiny amount of people that we're talking about, but it's we're not talking about a tiny amount of people. So I say only in the sense that I don't know what the other word would be. It's like, don't assume that 90% is. Don't assume that it's bigger than you expect, is what I was trying to figure out.
I can see exactly the point that you're trying to make, but what I'm saying is your sort of reflex language then.
Yeah, it's reflex language, like I can't, I just don't know the words sometimes.
I think you've got to be really careful, all of you, I think you've got to be really careful in that particular sensitive issue. Because at the end of the day, for example, if the 7% roughly who didn't identify as the same sex as they were both came to you and said, oh, can I fly my flag here for 2 months? Okay, you'd be giving 7% of the people 16% of your flag flying time. And I must thank the gentleman who said maybe you have to sort of start thinking about precedence of what flag goes where. If enough people ask you to fly enough flags, I think you may inevitably have to do that, irrespective of who they are. And this really, really is not a gay or any issue like that, you know.
Okay.
Just.
That's fine.
I understand what you're saying. Do you mind if I say something?
Yeah, very briefly, and then we're going to.
No, I just wanted to make the difference between there might only be 7% of people that identify as a different gender from the sex they were born with, but that doesn't mean there's only 7% of people that support flying the flag. So that's, I think that needs to be like a point that's made. It's the 7% that identify that, but there's a lot more.
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Lovely. Thank you.
I've said all along this lot do twice as much for the gays and the Christ knows what as they do
Okay,
for
Mr. Jennings,
everybody else.
Thank you.
You discriminating